Going live.
I've got no idea if we are live.
I'm sure we'll be told pretty quick. In fact, we're looking. We've got
we're live now.
A few, not quite on my screen, but
we're live. We're 30 seconds into it, mate.
Oh right, okay.
No pressure.
I'm just going to wait until a couple more people join.
Have you had a wee yet? Like your nervous wee before every episode?
Now we're live. Now I
live.
Can see us.
Yeah, I can see us too.
Well, we were probably live already. And
yeah.
Now we actually are.
Yeah.
So
good luck, everyone.
I was about to start then. Hello, everyone, and welcome down to episode number 30, live as it happens. So if you are listening to this in your car or in your headphones or wherever you are, and this sounds a little bit dodgy, well, you missed the live show because we didn't go live to podcast. We went live to YouTube.
Where were they?
Yeah, that's right. So if this sounds a little bit different, that's because we are going straight from Zoom audio, which can sometimes be a little bit dodgy, but I'm sure it will be fine for everyone. So welcome down. It's good to see you all here. It looks like we've got quite a few people watching now, which is great.
920 people watching, it says.
Incredible. My name's Brendan Waits. The guy over on the other side of the Zoom, which way is he? He's that way.
No, the other way.
He's that way. Here's Cam Blake down in Tasmania. Good evening, Cameron.
Good evening, Brendan. How are you today? Yeah, big day.
Well, very well, thank you.
Yeah, we won't go into what you've done today because I think we crapped on about golf too much last episode.
Yeah, so I played golf today, and that is all we need to know about that.
Yeah.
Amazing weather down here, down south here in southeastern Australia. Where actually, I reckon this is the best time of year for weather is when you get into sort of late Feb and then autumnal action starts to happen. I think we get the best weather down in this neck of the woods from now until pretty much, late May, really, generally speaking. Could do with a bit more rain, but it's not exactly dry out there. So.
What's rain?
Exactly right. Exactly. Haven't seen much of that for a while, but that's all good. We've got a couple of people who have already popped in and said hello. So hello to everyone. Hey, and someone's jumped the gun as well, I noticed.
Have they? Oh yeah, they have. But I'm going to do a quick shout out to our Scottish listeners. We have some people over in Scotland. That's not a Scottish accent. I'm not even going to embarrass myself trying to do an accent on this show.
Don't attempt a Scottish accent.
No, I won't. I think I've got some Scottish blood in me. Not now, but originally. But hello to everyone over there. I don't know if you saw, they had a massive storm come through over there.
I did.
And there was I don't know if you saw the thing on that. They had a guy who was videoing the aeroplanes landing at Heathrow, and it was like a 5-hour live stream of an aeroplane. Every aeroplane came on an angle and like touching down. But he had something like 200,000 people watching him live. So we're nowhere near that on our live feed at the moment, but maybe we need to. It's early days.
If you believe, you will achieve. I would like to say happy birthday to Cameron. It was his birthday yesterday.
Thank you.
He turned 26 or something.
Yeah, we'll say 30. This is episode 30. I let's say I turned 30.
And cheers to you, buddy.
Cheers, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
If you're watching and you feel like cracking a beverage of some kind, it can be of any description. You have a nice cup of tea if you want. Please comment if you are having a little beer and watching along, a little beverage and watching along tonight. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
We're going to partake, so you can as well.
Yeah, beautiful. I've had a big day down here as well. I've been in the garden all day. Like I said, talking about the weather. The weather today down here in Hobart's been stunning. It's been about 25, 26, light breeze, sunny.
Yep.
Had those really cool wispy clouds. So there could be a good sunset going to happen outside. I wouldn't know. But I was in the garden today, and it got me thinking a bit about, not this is one of our topics, but it got me thinking about macro photography, all the different sort of leaves and little flowers and bits and pieces and stuff.
Yeah.
That you can easily take photos in your backyard and get some cool macro stuff. And
during lockdown 1, sorry to bring this up, but a couple of years ago when we went into lockdown the first time around, I think macro photography really took off because people quickly realized, holy crap, I can't go outside to take photos. I'm going to stay in my backyard and find some macro stuff. So
the 300 mil is just not cutting it in the backyard. I better get the macro out. That's one thing that you never stop looking for photos, do you? You always
No, not at all. Not at all. This is a live show, folks. So we have comments open. Please feel free to drop a comment. If you've got any questions whatsoever that you want to fire at a couple of gnarly old landscape photographers such as ourselves, feel free to.
30 years old.
Yeah. Okay. So Mr. 30-year-old, how many years experience have you had behind the lens?
If I'm being honest, what are we? I would say about 25 years. 25 years.
That's impressive. So you would have got into it in, let's say, 1997. Right?
Well, I reckon I was shooting. I did photography at high school, and so I reckon from about 1994. So what's that, like 28 years? There you
go. Yeah,
28 years. And a lot of that came back from Dad working for Olympus at the time. So he always had the cameras in the car. He had this little sample kit of cameras that we used to go away and take photos of. And then my very first or second paying job ever was being Santa's little helper, taking the photos of Santa Claus at the Heidelberg Warringal shopping centre, working at the Kodak Express there for the owner. Rob and Lois were the owners, lovely people. But every Christmas, I did the photos for Santa in the shopping centre, shooting on a Nikon F something, massive Nikon, and shooting film, like just chewing through film.
Yeah, I bet.
But that was the first paying. I think I was working at Woolies at the same time. But yeah, so yeah, I've been shooting for a while. And hopefully for a bit longer.
Interesting. Yeah, no, that's interesting. Me? Oh, sure, I'll tell you.
I was going to say. How about you, Brendan?
I kicked off. Okay, so I'm going to find it hard to put a year on this, but I know I was in year 10 at high school.
Yeah.
When I my brother, who was much older than me, was in the army. He got a trip to the US. He came back, and he was coming back into the country, and he bought the Pentax K1000 that I keep banging on about.
Yeah. Which we're going to touch on later in this episode as well.
Yes, and he gave me that. So I don't know. I think it was the spark. It was just like, oh, okay, this looks like a complicated piece of equipment. Looks like a real camera.
Yeah.
I think though, maybe even prior to that, I had sort of used Mum and Dad's little bloody Hanamex it was too. Little point and shoot, piece of junk. I took it on a couple of school camps. I've still got the photos, actually. I've got a photo of London Bridge down at the 12, so I'm, Port Campbell.
Yeah.
But London Bridge is intact. So it's before it collapsed.
Before we go any further, one of the listeners or viewers has asked us if you can move a little bit to that way so we can see your picture a bit better. There we go. That's it.
No, I refuse to, because we're going to talk about our backgrounds in a minute. Cameron, please stick to the script.
There is no, whatever script I'm looking at. Right, folks, if I could share my screen and show you what script we have each week. Well, there's a little bit in this one, but it's usually quite laughable. It's generally not really it's not really for sharing to normalize either.
Sorry, whoever asked that, I will give you a good background in a second.
That was Kathy Cat said, move your fat head out the way. No, she didn't. She said, can you move Brendan out the way?
Can you move Brendan out of the way?
Yeah. But people are drinking Reds. Someone's got a Jim Beam and Coke. Good on them.
Nice.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, as you were saying, London Bridge didn't fall down.
No, anyway. Yeah, sorry. I'm just giving our listeners an idea of how long we've been at this, I suppose. And so I'm 50 next year. So, so what's year 10? 15. So
35 years.
Of taking photos. And I can still remember going to Camera House in Swan Hill, where I grew up on the Murray there, and dropping off a roll of film. And if memory serves, I'm almost certain it was $7.99 to have it processed.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. And the cool thing was, you go and got your film. Remember this? You get your film processed, and they would give you a free replacement roll of film.
Yeah, they just top it up for you.
Back when people made money out of film.
yeah, not anymore though. Yeah,
that's right. So so that's Point being, if you've got any questions for us gnarly old landscape photographers, please fire away. Now let's talk about our backgrounds so we can keep our listeners happy.
Yes.
I'm going to go first. God damn it.
Do it. Go for it.
How's that? That better?
That's great. Yeah. Lucky there's no lingerie hanging around in the background.
So you're looking at Port Fairy Lighthouse, everyone. So this was when I was down there.
I'm just laughing because I saw Ash use his comment. Hilarious. Anyway, sorry. You don't need to look at it. It's okay.
Ash, you too. Love you. Yeah, this is Port Fairy about 3 weeks ago. About 3 weeks ago to the day, as a matter of fact. In fact, 3 weeks ago to the second, pretty much. This is about when I shot that photo.
Yeah, right.
Sort of sun. Ash, haven't you got a sunset to shoot, Ash? This was with the drone, and I was wrapped with it. Absolutely wrapped with this shot because it was blowing pretty hard. I think I mentioned in the podcast a couple of weeks ago that I had to actually Google how much wind the Mavic 2 Pro drone could stand.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Before I was happy to launch it because it was gusting pretty hard.
Yeah.
Anyway, got it up there. That photo is only from about, I want to say 5 meters high. So it's still quite low. But again, this is what I love about the drone. That rock wall that leads to the lighthouse, it's a really popular shot, but everyone just stands at the end of the rock wall with their camera at eye level and takes that shot, which is fine. I just wanted to see more of it. So by raising the angle slightly, I was able to see more. That the sky in the background doesn't exist. That is using sky replacement in Photoshop.
Really?
Really.
Oh, jeez.
Now that's going to light up the comment board because I'm curious.
Well, so Kathy Cat said, I love the colours in the leading line. Well, she's just been sold down the river, hasn't she?
The foreground is all me. The background is Photoshop. Mainly because when I shot it, it was just a clear blue sky. There was not one cloud there. So I almost didn't take any photos, but I really loved the light on the foreground.
Yeah.
So
it looks great. Now I know it's fake. This is
the thing, isn't it? So it still looks great, right?
Still looks great.
Now that you know, I put that sky in there. I didn't take that photo myself.
So if someone
diminishes the quality of it.
We're going to go down and open this can of worms. We haven't even got into the show yet.
Oh, let's do it.
So if someone came into your shop and you had this, no doubt you've put it on the wall somewhere already because that's what you do. If someone came in and said, I love that shot. I've been there 1,000 times. I love the sunsets there. You've captured it so well. Would you destroy them there and then on the spot and say, well, actually, that's not what the sunset looked like? Or would you take their money and let them walk out the door with your shot?
I would take their money and let them walk out the door unless they specifically asked if that's been photoshopped. And then I would tell them because that's what happened.
See, I'm maybe I'm a bit different. Maybe I must admit I'm not the greatest salesperson of my own work ever. But I feel like I have to be right up front and say, so if I had a sticker on this on the gallery wall where I am, I would say composite.
Yeah. And I'm here to tell you as well that I probably won't be selling that photo.
I was waiting for you to turn around and say that the lighthouse was some sort of clip art or something.
And look, the reason I probably wouldn't be selling that photo is because it's a manipulated image. Now, anyone who's got a decent, if you've seen the high-res version of it and you zoom right in on the top of the lighthouse, you can see that there's a fair bit of work going on there.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I love the photo, but the sky was just awful. There was nothing. And this is the thing, right? I can't just scoot down to Port Fairy. It's 4 hours away.
No, you can't. But isn't that the whole?
I made some art.
Made some adjust. But isn't that to me? That's the whole brilliance and the whole skill of photography is getting those shots in the one go. Because you're not only getting your settings right, you're not only working on compositions, you're not only working your camera, getting it all right, but you're also getting there and using the conditions to your absolute advantage to create artwork. Yes. I remember once I downloaded a workshop from Christian Fletcher, who's a very famous Western Australian photographer, amazing photographer. G'day if you're watching, doubt he is. But I downloaded one of his tutorials on Photoshop and Lightroom thinking, okay, I can always learn more. It was a good price sort of package. And in the first 5 minutes, he's saying, well, this shot I replaced the sky from there. This shot I replaced the sky from there. And this one over there, I actually took a sky from there. And I didn't watch any more of it because that, to me as a photographer, that's not how I operate. I like to be one shot only. Not taking anything away from people that replace skies or do whatever they want. But it's interesting how some people feel about it and how some other people don't feel about it because
I would say there's a limit. Now, We're going to talk about your background in a second, but that image behind you has been processed in Photoshop. There's no question about that, right? As has mine. It's just I went to the next level and inserted a sky digitally. Now I've created an image, no question. I think the foreground photo, I was really, really happy with it, but it just wasn't doing it for me. It needed a dramatic sky. I went, oh, let's have a look and see what this sky replacement thing's all about, and it produced that. So, which I was wrapped with.
So, but this brings
up. Not, but just sorry, Ash has just commented. That is not one of my photos in the background. That is a stock Adobe sunset.
So you can't sell it then?
Well, again, not that I would, but it's. Having said that, if someone contacted me and they've seen that image, because I did share it through my own personal Facebook page, if someone's seen that image and they said to me, oh, I want to buy that image to use for tourism, Port Fairy, blah, 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 absolutely I would sell it to them. Absolutely I would sell it to them, because I have created that. That's my work. That is my work. And if a stock image is available, it's a stock image. It means anyone can use it for any purpose. So, you know, and I hear the arguments both ways. I'm in business. It's what I do. It's how I pay the bills, how I pay for this podcast.
Because our budget's so high. It pays for the beer to drink. So the thing is then, if you've used that, so like that's the first time you've done a replacement sky, let's see what it's all about. And it's produced something that looks pretty damn good. Yeah. Like to me, that'd be like, let's go back and use golf as an analogy, right? That'd be like you saying, well, I can use my putter as normal, or I can get a laser pointed spirit leveler thing on my putter and get it in the hole every time. Like to me, if you get a result like that out of doing a replacement sky, to me that all of a sudden says to me, well, I don't need to really be there at the right conditions. I can just drop a sky when I need. And to me, then you're sort of moving away from what the passion or the traditional passion of photography should be, in my opinion. But I'm old school. I'm 30. I'm getting older. So
you are.
Yeah. Anyway, but there's some really good comments too, actually.
I'm excited by what Photoshop can offer in terms of offering me even more creativity. Because again, you know, I could post that photo. In fact, we should have been more organized. I should have shown you the original. All it is what you're looking at there with no clouds in the sky. That's all. Yeah. You know, but I really like being able to grab an image that was almost there and then making some cool imagery. And you're exactly right. I'm loath to put that on the walls of my gallery as much as I love it. And I do actually think it's quite a marketable image. It would be tough for me to. I would probably have to put a sign on it underneath it saying composite image. Just so people know what they're getting. But again, you know, I don't know how many people would look at it and go, "Oh, did you replace the sky in that? It's horrible." Like that doesn't work like that.
Yeah, no, yeah. Like to me, it's. And this word's going to sound like the wrong word, but it's a bit more about integrity for me. That if people are flogging off their images that are composites without really telling the person, but then again, I guess like it's art. People buy it for what it looks like, not necessarily how it's created. I get that. So yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one.
Yeah. And everyone's going to have their own. Everyone's going to have their own opinion on it, and I totally get that. And hats off to you. Whatever you think, that's fine. Be you. But I just think, you know, it's sort of become the genie's out of the bottle with Photoshop, right?
Yeah, true.
So you know, it's and I'm not saying two wrongs make a right. It's just we've already gone down the path. You know, it is ridiculous what Photoshop can do to an image. Yeah, and you know, and again, any landscape photographer that's worth their salt uses Photoshop, mate. That's what happens. Yeah, you know,
or do they?
Which is a good thing, because we're going to go full circle back to film soon as well. We're going to talk a bit about our film experiences in a minute as well. Anyway,
there's some great comments there, and then it's I would say people are more on your side on this one than probably my side, which is fine.
It's all about how you sell it, Cam.
Well, that's the thing. Like Susie said that I'm such a good salesperson. She came and visited me in the gallery the other day, and I tried to sell her one of Luke's prints, not mine. Yeah. I'm useless. Well, I don't think I ever earned any spivs at the camera shop when we were doing it. So
no. I want to talk about your background.
Yeah, well, we're on the first segment, aren't we? Backgrounds. My background is a single shot landscape image of the Nelson River, which comes off the Nelson Falls on the west coast of Tassie. It's just a really beautiful spot. You stop there on the way through to Queenstown, and it's about I don't know 5-10 minute walk into this waterfall. But the stream on the way out's got some really cool sort of bits. So that's with a tripod, circular polarized. It's in a dark forest, so you get that longer exposure. I think it's a 24mm lens. It's taken a little while ago, but I always come back to this image. I like the green and the water and stuff like that. So cool. I felt like I needed a bit of a cooler forest look about today. So
it's very Tasmania, isn't it? That photo.
It is, and especially this tree that comes out here, like all the trees with the moss growing on them. That's really Tassie, and even the what they call old man's beard. What do you call it? Moss that hangs off the trees. That's very well. It's not uniquely Tasmanian, but it's very common in Tasmania. But I do like. I'm definitely a forest photographer. I like forest and I like streams and the greens and things like that. But this is just literally on the track as you walk into the waterfall, so it's pretty cool. So I got to move out the way to get a better view. There you go.
Oh, yes. Oh, no. Now, you got to get right out of the shot. How can we? Because I want to see this.
Hang on. I don't know how I do it. Hang on. No, I can't do it.
No, you can't turn yourself off. That's fine.
No,
there's a really cool mossy rock right behind you. That's all.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a beautiful spot, and we are lucky down here. You can sort of go anywhere on the west coast and pick up shots like that. So yeah, just a bit of a rainforestry. Like speaking of rain and cooler weather, this is what would be nice if we get some of this again soon.
Hello to anyone who's just joined us recently on this live show. I see a few more viewers have jumped on to say hi, leave a comment, say good day. We like to hear from you.
Yeah, we've just been arguing for the first 10 minutes, but that's okay.
No, there's no arguments here. This is none whatsoever. You just made me feel guilty about creating fantastic artwork.
Well, look, if you can sell it off, good on you. That's it. I think Anne made a pro golfer cannot use a spirit level on the green before putting out. That's true. So does that mean she's saying that as a pro photographer, you shouldn't be using extra tools to cheat? I don't know. No. That's how I read it.
No. So I don't think so. So moving right along, our main topics for this week, we wanted to talk a little bit about what you should expect when you attend a photography workshop. So if you're looking to attend a workshop that this guy here runs, or this guy here really runs, anyone really.
Yeah.
I think what we wanted to talk about is what you should expect from when you pay your hard earned. What should you get out of a workshop? To kick it off, does it depend on the level of absolute bog standard beginner, or like someone who's had a bit more experience? Or
I guess it does, and I guess people's expectations, and the other reason I thought this topic might be a good one tonight is, as a person that runs quite a lot of workshops, and there's a lot of other people that I know run workshops, I don't think any two workshops are the same. Different location, different people, different teaching skills and things like that. But I think there should be some consistencies across the board with what you should expect for the money you pay doing workshops. So whether or not you're a beginner, my workshops range from beginners to people that are shooting just as much as I am, and their reasons for attending are always different. Some people. One of the most common reasons people come on workshops for me is that their partner doesn't like hanging around while they take photos. So they want to go away somewhere nice with a group of like-minded people where there's no real time constraints, no real pressures on what they have to do, and learn a few tricks along the way and have a good time. So, but I think the expectations from people to people based on their level, like you said, I think that would change, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. Anne Moore says she expects lunch. When she goes on the
why would you want lunch on a workshop?
That's right. That's great. Well, I'd expect that as well. It's funny because when I have the main workshop I run is an entry-level workshop, but I do market it to people with a bit of experience as well, because I find that people who've been shooting for even people who shot on film and transitioned to digital at the turn of the century, which is just a phrase I love using, they get a lot out of the workshop as well, because to this point, they might have been doing something not quite right, and they just hadn't picked up on that. So I think when it comes to what you should expect out of a workshop when you attend one of these things is, well, obviously you want to expect to learn something you don't already know. Hopefully, that would be a good start. I think you should also expect a fair bit of attention as well. And I know, Cam, you keep your numbers relatively small for that very reason, so that you can. I mean, I would hate to go to a photography workshop where there's 30 people and one presenter. Yeah, because like, how's that going to work?
That's right. You just don't get that attention that people want. And you're right. Like every different person that comes on a workshop is there for a different reason. And a lot of times, even the people that have been shooting for a long time, we'll get to a point where they might just go, "Oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. I didn't realize that's what that meant," or "Hey, that's a cool way. I've never thought about doing that before." So. I think if people can get away with a couple of extra little tips and stuff like that, I think that's a good thing. But based on what people are saying in the comments, there's a lot of people that like to just go on these workshops for the experience of going somewhere else with other people that are like-minded and happy to share knowledge and and sort of rack my brain for what I know and what I can teach as well. So
I've only done really localized on location workshops so far. You've clearly done them all over the joint, and I think that's the difference. If you're picking and choosing your workshops, do you want to do more theoretical stuff? So you want to sit down in a maybe a studio environment, or do you want to sit down in like more of a classroom environment and learn that way, or do you want to be out on location? And I guess one thing that's always tough, and I'm not putting words in your mouth here, Cam, but I think one thing that's always tough with on-location stuff is the weather. Like it's so tough to, what you have to do is when you get back to your studio is use sky replacement, and that's frowned upon. So
well that's the thing, and locations play a big part in workshops. And I think that's why down here in Tassie, I'm very lucky. I can run multiple workshops in all different areas. But have certainly different locations and different landscapes. But you're right. Like sometimes the weather, I really encourage my groups. If anyone's been on a workshop with me, generally the weather is not a factor. If it's raining, snowing, hot, sunny, windy, whatever it is, we'll go out there and we'll try and create something. Because I think it's very important that if you're on a workshop, people are paying, good money to come and spend time with you in the locations. The last thing you want to do is just sit in a hotel room for 8 hours a day because it's raining. Which is why these forestry scenes are great in Tassie. Even if it's rainy, you can get in there and get some great shots. But I thought it was an interesting topic to bring up as to what people should be expecting to get out of there. I know someone's put up a comment there, Sam, saying that some workshops you actually have to pay more for the education. So the workshop is about just going to the the trip's about going to the location. But if you want to learn stuff, you've obviously got to tap on a bit of extra money to do that. So that's an interesting way of doing it. But I think people should have an expectation that
interesting is a kind word for it.
it's a kind word for it, but it's a different way to do it. But I think people should have at least the expectation that if you can't walk away, like I say to my guys when they come along, if I think I had one lady came on a workshop a few years ago, and she'd been on quite a lot of workshops all around Australia. And one of her comments was, "I usually come away with these 3 or 4 day workshops with 1 or 2 good shots I like." And I sort of almost fell over in shock. I'm like, you're walking away from these locations with 1 or 2 images that you like that. To me, that's not really getting bang for buck. Like you should be getting 2 or 3 images a day that you like from a location that you're going. Bare minimum. So we made that a bit of a, on the fly, we made that a bit of a goal for our workshop attendees that, we're going to get 2 or 3 cracking images a day from where we're going each day. And we're not leaving that location until we do. And she sent me an email a few weeks afterwards and said, "Hey, you know what? I actually got like 12 or 13 different good shots that I'm really, really happy with." So, I think there's got to be an expectation that you've got to walk away from the end of these workshops. And again, depending on which level you're at, like if you're a good beginner and you want to learn, then that's where an instructor can really help you, set up things, get your composition or talk to you about composition, get some settings right for you. So, you're sort of 80% of the way of getting a really good shot, and then it's up to you to look at what you're doing.
Yeah, and to that end, I would say that doing a workshop, particularly an on-location workshop, is going to give you a lot of tools to avoid the dreaded photographer's block. Yeah. So, it's happened to all of us. I'll go to a great location. It's like, this is a really good location. I don't know how to capture it. Like I can't I can't work out the composition or, what I need to do. But if you're armed with the right tools and you've got a few basics there that you can always go back to, and, for example, I give notes, literally a cheat sheet of notes. It's on real paper too. I actually print it for people and give it to them. And I get a real buzz when I go down to the beach and I see another photographer there and I can see my notes sticking out of their camera bag. It's really cool.
Yeah.
And they probably don't read them, but it looks good.
It's a sunshade for the lens.
That's great. Hey, it doubles down. That's fine. But I think, I think it's really, really important to have those tools so that when you do get the dreaded block, you've got some building blocks, a foundation to go back to. So, okay, let's do a reset here. What am I looking for? Where am I, leading lines? Where's my horizon got to be? Blah, blah, blah. All that sort of stuff that you learn by doing when you go to an on-location workshop.
I have a really wanky phrase that I use in my workshops, which there's a few on people here who know about it, but I use this phrase that don't forget the cat. So anyone who owns a cat, you generally don't leave your cat outside, don't forget the cat, bring the cat inside. But to me, I break it up that the cat stands for something. So cat is composition, aperture, and time of day. If you can just focus on those three things at each place you go to, you sort of, you're a good way on to getting a good shot. So make sure your composition's strong, how it works, what makes a good composition versus a bad composition. For landscape photography, a lot of it's all to do with aperture, how much depth of focus or depth of field do you want in your shot? And then the other one is time of day, talking about weather and stuff like that. If you want to go out and get a really beautiful shot like yours behind there with real clouds, not dropping clouds, then, you can't go there at midday. You've got to go there at sunset to get that sort of thing. So I always say to my guys, wherever we might be standing, whether it's a forest or on the coastline, okay, cool. What are we here at the right time of day? And everyone's like, well, yeah, it's sunrise or sunset, cool, tick that off. What aperture are we going to use? Well, we want big depth of field. Let's go F11, F16. Excellent. And what about our composition? Well, I'm working on that, but the other two things are ready to go. And that really just dumbs it down for people that they can really get good shots quicker. Nothing worse when you're on a workshop and, you can see someone fumbling around, playing around with settings, swapping lenses and doing all these things, tripod up, tripod down, low, high, whatever. And the sun's going off in the background, going off. And all of a sudden, by the time they're ready to shoot, the light's all completely gone. And they've missed the whole shot. So, I like to try and get people set up real early, real quick, and then work with them as we go along. So you got a sunset going on, haven't you?
Yeah, I'm just having a look out my window, and we are starting to get to sunset time, and it's looking rather peachy. Why do we schedule these things when I have nice sunsets here?
There's a good question from Sam. So, as a question I hear a lot, is composition more important than light if you had to choose? Well, we're going to talk about composition as another topic in this little episode. But
I think that's going to come up next.
Segue. Well, that's
very good segue.
Has Sam got our notes? Has she got a copy of these notes?
She's got a cheat sheet somewhere.
She has got a cheat sheet.
Just leaving the workshop thing, wrapping it up. That segment was brought to you by Cam's Workshops. Cam, can you give a quick plug?
We're doing sponsorships, are we?
Can you give a quick plug for your website and where people might be able to book themselves at the workshop?
Absolutely. Here goes my sales skills. www.camblakepphotography.com.au. All my workshops are on the front page. We go to almost every corner of Tassie. We're also going to South Australia, to the Flinders Ranges. We go down the Franklin River rafting. I know there's someone watching who's booked onto that. We go all over the place. So if you want to come and join me down in Tassie, jump on there, have a look. There's still places available for most of this year. They've all got sort of bookings, but there's room for a couple more. We're off to the Tarkine in a couple of weeks. There's also someone watching. Sam's actually coming on that one, I think, from the Tarkine. So she's in for an absolute treat. But yeah, they're all there. www.camblakepphotography.com.au. I also do little single day things. So if you're in Hobart for a day, or if we do Olympus OM digital days as well, where I take you out with all the Olympus gear. So it's all on there. So go check it out and shoot me a message if you've got any questions. Really.
Yeah, nice one.
And how have you got your introductories going yet?
Yeah. So my workshops have been stop-start for the last 2 years, as with a lot of things. A lot of people's businesses have been stop-start for the last 2 years. However, feels like there's light at the end of the tunnel now. QR codes were abolished yesterday here in Victoria. I think the story is that masks aren't far behind. So they're all good signs. And the country has literally, as we speak, just reopened to international travellers. So all good signs. My workshops will kick off again in March. So they were supposed to kick off in February, but then Omicron said, no, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
So we're kicking ours off again in March. So if anyone is listening and who's can get their way to Ocean Grove in southern Victoria, you can sign up to one of my workshops. So
and we are going to do. I'm telling you right now, we are doing a joint workshop.
Telling you now.
Brendan and I are going to do. It'll most likely be up his end of the world because he never comes down to Tassie because it's too far. There's more golf courses down here. But anyway, we will put one on this year, and we'll make sure that you guys listening get exclusive access to that. There you go. It's exclusive.
Did you hear that, everyone? We're going to put one on this year.
Yeah, sometime.
I like it.
So
that's good. No, we'll do it. It's good.
Yeah. Getting back to Sam's question about composition and light,
yes,
which is going to roll into what we've got. We've got some photos to share, and we were just going to share some photos and talk about them. But what I've made Brendan do is we're going to actually talk about the composition that may or may not work in these shots and why, and maybe how it can or can't be improved. But to answer Sam's question, and we will talk about this in the Tarkon when you come along, composition to me can make or break a shot. You can have the best light in the world, but if you've got the most mediocre composition, then it really does take away from what you could have created. So you've only got to look at the likes of Peter Dombrovskis, Peter Eastways, Christian Fletcher's, all the really good photographers in Australia. They all have very strong. Brendan Waite. They all have very strong compositions in their shots. So I think it's important how much it outweighs. Whether or not composition is 50% more important than light or not. I think they're pretty close, but I think composition just nips it at the end.
There's a very, very simple answer. You can make great compositions. You can't make great light.
Well, you did.
Well, not really.
You got a good composition, then upped it with great light.
There you go. So I put mayo on it, but you can, in my opinion, in a landscape situation, if you're in a good, how can I say you're in a good landscape? I think you know what I mean. If you're in an area, where there's lots of interest, like lighthouses, jetties, rainforest, all that sort of stuff, I think you can create good composition anywhere. I really do believe that.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, true.
And to the point where I actually love challenging myself like that, where you might be on just this desolate beach, for example, where there's there's nothing going on, but then you start looking for it and you will see it.
Yeah.
So quite often, just a little example, I used to, when I lived on the Sunshine Coast up in Queensland, I used to do the Yamundi markets up there. And I would sell loads of photos of the Noosa Heads National Park, main beach at Noosa, the Noosa River, all this sort of stuff. And there'd be shots that I'd sell, and quite often people would, clearly not photographers, but they love the images. They would come in and they would say, I was just in the Noosa National Park yesterday morning. I didn't see that.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, did you look?
Yeah.
And not being a smart ass, but meaning the photographer will look a lot harder at a landscape. And it's amazing when you start thinking as a photographer. So it's almost like a penny dropping moment. You take your camera, you understand what focal lengths your cameras are working out and your field of view of your lens. Yeah. And you start seeing that with your own eyes. Well, I do. You start, I don't do this, by the way. I've never once done that in my entire life. For those listening, it's when you make the little box out of your fingers and look through like your bloody Stanley Kubrick or something. But I don't
have one on my desk, but people used to take the blank 35mm slide frames.
Yeah.
And they'd hold it up and so. Which
is really interesting. I get that. But I think with experience and going out into a scene, for me, it's composition first and then pray for the light.
Well, that's where the cat theory comes in. Composition.
Yeah.
That get that done first, because if you get there at the right time of day and you get all your aperture and stuff set up, and like I said, if you're fluffing around trying to get a composition, I've used the example once before of a great mate of mine, Dave Marlin, who might be watching, but he's been on a few workshops and things like that. And we're on the east coast of Tassie, taking a shot of the hazards, beautiful morning, absolutely gorgeous sunrise. And we had a group of, I think it was maybe 8 people there. And everyone else set their compositions up really good. And they were just waiting for the light. So they got everything ready to go and just waiting to snap off for that light. He's running up and down this beach snapping. He had 600 compositions that morning. And when he got back, he's like, which one should I use? Or I just couldn't get my head around. I was looking for composition. I was spending too much time. And he got all a bit panicky and he still got a nice shot. But the ones that were set up had their composition strong from the start were the ones that were not panicky and the ones that were able to get that light when they needed it to. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
And again, a good composition in a landscape generally won't go anywhere. It's going to be there forever. Well, as long for the rest of your life. So
that's right.
You can always just because you happen to be there then and then, you can always, and then let's say the light doesn't happen, you can always come back to it. You can always have another crack at it later to try and get it how you envisaged it. But if I can offer you one piece of advice about composition, it is put it at the top of your list as priorities for your landscape photography, because to me it's 90% composition. Really, it's that important.
And I think you're right as well. Like a lot of people ask on workshops, how do I, teach me composition? It's like, well, I can teach you 9/10 of the way, but you've got to also start looking at things differently. Like you said, different lenses, different heights in your tripod, shooting down, shooting up, whatever it might be. And it's, to me as a teacher, it's one of the hardest things I have to try and teach is how to get people to start looking differently through their lenses. So that's where that's where, as funny as it sounds, this is where this thing comes in extremely handy. Yes. This is my composition tool. This one is because I can take this out and just go to a student. Hey, look, try this, shoot that down, wide angle. This is how I'm seeing it. And they're like, oh, cool. Yeah. Okay. I'll get my wide angle out, or I'll get my telephoto out and shoot through something or whatever. So, I think you're right. Composition is very important. But what we'll do, I'll try and share our screen with these photos. I'm hosting technically tonight because I don't know how to do anything else.
Cam hosts the live shows, everyone. So I do the editing for the YouTube stuff later, but Cam gets to host the live show. We don't know why we've done it this way. We actually are looking at the option for our next live show. So for those of you playing along at home, we have already said that we are going to do a live show every month. It might not be the same time every month, but we're certainly going to try and do one every month.
Yeah.
And hopefully at some point relatively soon, we might be able to even do one from a sunset location.
Wow. Funny you say that, because that was what we were thinking of doing tonight, is actually
there's such nice colour in the sky here. Oh my goodness.
It's a bit dull here, but it's blowing a gale down here. So I reckon if I was out somewhere, I would have got blown off the mountain. So, all right, let me see if I can share this screen. I think I've got it. I'm looking for Lightroom. Lightroom Classic. There we go. Share. Now, hopefully people can see us.
Yes, so I can see it on my...
I can't see the comments anymore, Bren, so you might have to...
I've got the comments here, and we have a screen on our stream. Right. And if you can click on that photo for me. Yeah, there we go. Yes, beautiful. A bit of a lag, bit of a delay.
That's all right. So, talking about compositions, this is a shot of Brendan's. Do you want to talk us about your thoughts around how you managed to get all those elements lined up really nicely on what looks like a terrible day?
Yeah, you're exactly right. It was a terrible day. Now, I've said this to you before, when we do these things, you've got to move that cursor off. Have you already done that?
I don't know. I think so. Is it out the way?
Now it's gone. That's fine.
Okay, cool.
So this is Point Lonsdale. In fact, all three of the photos that I've put up for our composition chat are down at Point Lonsdale. That's the Point Lonsdale jetty on the left.
Right.
And we've got a big old ship coming through the Rip, or the entry into Port Phillip Bay, on its way to probably the Port of Melbourne, I would imagine.
Right. Okay. I know we are,
Now, this was done in 2009, this photo. So what's this, 13 years old now, this photo?
Right.
Shot on, oh, goodness me, probably an Olympus C300 or something like that.
Yeah, okay.
If I remember it. Anyway, first thing in the morning, really, really bad conditions. So grey, overcast, just yuck. But we had a big swell pumping. Yeah. And when you get a big swell coming through the Rip at Point Lonsdale, it's really something even just to go and see, let alone photograph.
Yeah.
Anyway, I had the boat coming through the heads, and I'm looking at it compared to where the jetty was. I used a big zoom. This is a 300mm zoom, I believe. So who says you shouldn't use zoom to take a landscape photo? This is exactly a case in point where you can use zoom. Then as I had the boat and the jetty lined up, well, wouldn't you know it, that wave just sort of rose up out of the ocean right in front of me and added a third really dramatic element to the shot and gave it a lot of balance, I suppose, with the jetty on the left, the boat on the right, and then the wave ripping through the middle. So I'm very, very happy to say this has gone on to be probably, I'd be close to being my best-selling point Lonsdale photograph over the years. And it looks awesome as a gigantic canvas, like a 2-meter canvas. There's a lot of really good detail in it. And the canvas, of course, masks the imperfections in the photo, and that is the shockingly bad noise that you used to get over an Olympus E300 back in the day.
Well, on my screen, I can see it is a bit noisy, but I think it sort of adds to that sort of grainy feel about it too. Like,
that's right. It does have, it adds to that like sort of dynamic nature of the photo.
Yeah. So one of the things we talk about with composition is the rule of thirds, which is, I'd imagine most people listening would have an idea of what the rule of thirds is. And that's when you're sort of separating your image up into 3 sort of sections and trying to have interesting elements of each shot on the intersections or the third. So on this one here, Brendan's got obviously the horizon at the top of the top third of the frame, which is great. He's got that boat on the right-hand side. He's got the wave and the jetty on the left-hand side. He's got the jetty coming in at the bottom third. So it almost becomes 3 images. So you've got an image of the jetty, image of the wave, and then an image of the sky and the boat. So when you're looking at sort of framing things up, that can be it can come naturally to some people. Some people don't see the rule of thirds naturally. But what you'll find on most cameras these days, they actually have the rule of thirds like framing on your visual display. So you can actually turn it on or off. So if you don't know that on your camera, have a look, because you should be able to scroll through your screen. So when you're looking either at your screen or through the viewfinder, if it's an electronic viewfinder, you should be able to set it up where you get that rule of thirds grid. And it's a really good way to help line things up, even if it's just a horizon or, just to making sure that jetty is just on the, just far enough from the left. So that's a pretty cool shot, that one. I'm not monitoring questions. Is there any questions there, Brendan? No,
we just had we just had a couple of nice comments. Thank you about the photo, and also Kathy just asked me if that was Spirit of Spew. No, that is the cargo ship that's going through there.
Even mentioning the Spirit of Spew makes me feel good.
So the other thing about this shot is because it's done under pretty low light, I didn't have my tripod with me. So what I had to do is actually brace myself in some way. And what I've done in this case is I've got myself pushed hard up against the Point Lonsdale lighthouse. Handy to have a gigantic lighthouse right behind me as a tripod. So I also remember the day before this, I had some gigantic swell down at Bells Beach, which isn't too far from me, and I managed to get a cool shot of a surfer at Bells as well. So I got sort of 2 for the price of 1 with this little storm front that came through. So,
and the thing I love about this as well, and this goes back to what Ash mentioned. There's some legendary Tasmanian photographer who says don't be a fair weather photographer. I think he's right. That photographer, you need to make sure that this is still a nice shot on a nice day or with a nice sunrise or sunset. But if you want that drama of that massive wave, and you can almost picture the captain of that boat reaching for the sick bag because he's seen that wave coming through the rip. Like it gives it a feel because you're there shooting it in terrible conditions. Now you can go there and get a nice shot, a nice calm shot of the jetty and a boat. But, it's not going to be as interesting as something as dramatic as that massive wave. That wave is bigger than the jetty. It's almost as big as the boat in scale in regards to what you've got it framed. So, like you don't get that unless you go out and do it. So don't sit at home watching the poor weather pass. Get out there and capture the drama, I say.
Oh, no, this weather was yuck. Like, as I say, it was only crazy photographers and captains of boats that were out that morning. It was awful. But, it was good fun. Are we going to do one of yours now, Ken?
Yeah. Craig says it needs a lightning bolt. I'm surprised it doesn't, to be honest. So this one will pop up on people's screens when the lag drops off that I can see going on. So this is a shot from
very, very nice.
Yeah, I like this shot myself because of the composition I used to try and accentuate that real big root system in the front. But this is up in the northeast of Tassie. These are giant, 500 or 600 year old myrtle trees. They're just massive. Like the scale of him is just huge. Like what this shot probably does need is another photographer in there for scale, or a person standing under the tree with a red jacket on or something like that. But these are, really old myrtle trees. But what I've done here is I've just tried to really use that foreground sort of twist in the root system there to sort of lead you into that big tree. And, with the right atmospheric sort of conditions with the fog, just having that tree in the back sort of right-hand corner just sort of gives it a bit of depth as well. But again, like just the simple rule of thirds, there's 2 trees on the vertical thirds. The interesting part of that root system sort of going through the bottom third. There's not much going up in the top section of the image apart from the big trunk. But it was just one of those scenes where I just saw that twist in the root system. I thought that looks pretty. It looks like a snake or something like that, and snapped it away.
The attention to detail in this image is really cool. I like the way the light is filtering through the leaves as well. As you can see, there's some are blocked out by shadow, but some have actually got light filtering through them, particularly ones that go up in the V of the bough, if you like, in the main tree. What's your take on the debris on the forest floor there? Like, there's a lot going on there. Did you, when you were taking this photo, was that in the back of mind that could be a little bit messy and distracting, or is it that the 2 trees dominate the scene so much that they just take all the attention of the viewer?
Like it did cause me a little bit of concern when I was shooting, because you're right, there is a lot of mess and a lot of breakage. It gets very windy up there as well, so there's a lot of broken branches and things like that. The biggest thing that sort of concerned me in this shot, and this is again where like this is an early morning shot, really, really thick fog, but I'm still using a polarizing filter. And the reason I used the polarizing filter, because there was so much glare off all that foliage on the ground, like all that orangey sort of bark and the wet tree roots and all the little bits of myrtle leaves. Without the polarization of the light, that was really, really bright, and it just looked like lots of white specks on the ground. So even though it was sort of really early morning conditions and it wasn't blue sky conditions, the circular polarizer really took out a lot of that attention on the foreground. So that was more my concern. Like the mess of it, I just accepted. But the flare off all the wet foliage was what was causing me concerns. And I think I did a shot without the polarizer turned the right way, and I just went, whoa! It just stuck out on the back of the screen. I went, that's not going to work. We need to cut that out. And then what that does, the polarizer also bumps up those greens, and those leaves you're talking about, they probably look a bit better as well because they're a bit more polarized than what they were without the polarizer. So a lesson there is that, I keep my polarizer on until I'm doing astro. I leave it on most of the time.
So the conditions in this photo, sorry to cut you off, but the conditions in this photo, you've got a bit of mist and stuff around. It almost looks like the tree in the background is either disappearing or emerging from that mist. I think that's a case of getting, not lucky, but you make your own luck. But getting really good, really positive conditions to shoot in. To add to that scene. I think without the mist and the fog there, you might have had to shoot at a really shallow aperture just to have the tree front left sharp and the background falling away.
I agree. I went up here this morning. I went up with Luke O'Brien, the gentleman that I share the gallery with, and talking about planning for shots. I think this is something that people might not put as much emphasis on, especially in their local areas. Like, it's different if you're going to a place that you're only going for a week, or you can't do much about conditions there. But if you find a spot that you go, geez, that'll look good under real foggy conditions, well, the weather forecasts these days are generally pretty good, spot on. So we actually picked a really misty, sort of wet, rainy day, because this is up at around, I think they're about 700 or 800 meters above sea level. They're quite high. So we knew if we went up there in the right conditions in regards to drizzle and mist and rain, that we would actually get these kind of conditions. So not long after this, we packed up and went home because it started bucketing down rain. We couldn't do anything without getting dots all over our lens, spots all over our lens. But the conditions were really like, this is perfect. And we went up a week or two later to do something else, and the conditions were just bright, sunny, and it just doesn't look the same. It looks completely highly contrasted. It's more of a black and white scene than it is that sort of color scene. But if you have a spot local that you go to, or whether or not it's the beach, if people live on the coastline, all you got to talk about is sea fog. You can predict when that sea fog's going to come in, or the spray, or you can get some really atmospheric shots going on. So that's just as important. The research to a shot is just as important to the shot, I reckon.
Yeah, well, Kathy just asked a question. What if you'd increase the yellows in the mist or the highlights? So I think that would be detrimental to this image, because what mist does in a scene like this is makes that background almost monochromatic. It really desaturates the image, and I think what that has done is just added to the composition, because of course it makes the tree on the left the highlight, the main performer in this image for sure. So the background in this image is a bonus, but it's secondary to that tree on the left.
Yeah. What I was actually going to do is drop a fog sky in. The fog, like drop a fog sky in. So that's I just drop fog in there.
Yeah. Yeah. So no one's going to believe us at all now. Well, me.
Well, this is a single capture. The only thing I did say in regards to Kathy's question about the yellows and the mist and the highlight, I actually did cool this whole temperature. I cooled the entire temperature down of the shot. So I shoot on auto white balance on my cameras. But if I have if this is, like I said, this is a cold, misty, sort of wet scene, I'll actually back the color temperature down to be a bit cooler. So it actually, you'll sort of get a bit of a feel that, okay, it's cold and wet there. You know, if this was a really nice sort of sunrise or sunset, I probably would warm it up a bit and go the other way to make it feel a bit warmer. So you can play around with color temperatures a bit as well.
Yeah, so very good. All right, shall we move along?
We'll move it along. This is Brendan's next one, talking of putting things in the middle.
Yeah, look, I mean, this shot is something that it happens a lot. Like it's a very, very common shot to do when you've got a nice jetty. P.S. These were, I basically ripped these straight off my website and sent them to Cam. So forgive me if they're a little bit low res, but I'm sure you get the idea. Again, Point Lonsdale, the great thing about this jetty is at low tide, as you can see, that you can get underneath it and you can get these fantastic compositions. Now, you know, this is leading lines on steroids. This is to the absolute max. Vanishing point, exactly. The idea here is you want to have a look. Basically, when you look at that image, your eye should be led right to that very, very faint little window you can see right at the end of the pillars of the jetty. But of course, taking that shot on its own, although it works, you know, it's been done to death. It's a bit of a yawn fest. So, you know, I put on a 10-stop ND filter and slowed the water down and got the blur of the movement. I got. Thanks, Cam.
That's
I got the blur of the movement. I got the blur of the waves to just add a little bit more interest. So the more you look at this photo, the more you see. And one of the upshots of doing that, not only to get the blur around the rock that's sitting right under that jetty, if you look to the waves that are breaking on the left-hand side of this jetty, they've got that really cool movement in those as well, which I love that look. I think I don't know, there's something about it. It adds movement to a still frame.
Yeah.
And again, one of those shots that prints really well for some reason. This particular photo prints really well. And this is where I break the rule of, I hate horizons right through the middle of my photo. Dead center is dead boring as far as I'm concerned. However, in this case, it actually adds to an extra line that intersects right at the vanishing point. Yeah. So the balance in the photo is great, but then you've got the asymmetrical jetty, which you can see no two pillars are the same. Yeah. They're all out of alignment. This thing was built like 100 years ago. This is if you've ever got a chance to get down to Point Lonsdale, not far from my hometown in Ocean Grove, around the jetty, the lighthouse area, you will come back with some awesome photos at any time of the year and any time of the day. It's just so accessible, I think, is the thing. As I say, with this jetty, obviously you can walk out on the jetty as far as you want. You can shoot back towards the lighthouse. You can shoot forward down the jetty, or like I've done here, you can get underneath it as well.
Yeah, that's I love the real rustic detail. Like you said, all those pillars, there's not one the same. There's some that's got like some sort of mossy algae around it. And then I also like the fact that if you look from front, if you go down that vanishing point, if you look at the front, you got a little bit of rock and color in there. Then it goes to a different sort of color. And then at the very back, it goes into aqua. So you've sort of got like a gradient of color going through it as well. So
I'm glad you brought that up, because to me, color, I very rarely take the time to look at the colors in a scene when I'm making a composition. But this one, so I think it's a happy byproduct. I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but it's like when you you see the image appear on your screen on the back of the camera, particularly the long exposure, because sometimes the processing goes on. It takes a few seconds for the image to appear. I think that's when I look at the color, is after I've captured the scene. Yeah. When I'm making the photo originally, I'm interested in is composition.
Yeah.
And yeah, I know that there's going to be nice blues and aquas and stuff, and that's going to come through nicely. But it's not, it's not even, wouldn't even be in the top 5 things that I would consider in a photo like this is color.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
And now that might come from the fact that we are now editing our photos a lot in Photoshop, Lightroom, that sort of stuff. And we've got a lot of control over that color. But I would like to think with color, I strive to make it as natural looking as possible. I think now that's what makes an image stand out, is when the colors don't look faked or unnatural. And to me, this image in particular, it's almost muted. It's that. Yeah, it's underdone, this image.
Well, there's a lot of comments saying that maybe even black and white would look really cool on this one, and
it does. I actually have produced this image in black and white, and it does look really good because it's quite contrasty.
Yeah, well, that's easy to do. Let's make it black and white.
This is my intellectual property you're playing around with here, Cameron.
That's great.
There we go. Look at that. The wonders of modern technology.
Yeah, we'll just fix it up a bit. Hang on.
Yes, and no, that actually looks really good in black and white. This is a live edit of one of my photos by Cam Blake.
Yeah.
So I feel like I have to give you money for this now.
Well, you sell stuff, whatever. There you go. Easy done. What a great shot. Sorry, I've just completely bastardized your photo. We'll go back to color. Hang on, we'll reset it back to normal. All right. Yeah, excellent. And again, this is a really good example of, again, leading lines and using repetitive shapes and things like that, getting a bit creative in your shots. And like you said, this shot probably works underneath the jetty, on the jetty, looking back, looking up. Like there's probably 1,000 different ways you can actually make this really stand out. So always look for different angles and different options while you're there as well.
Yeah, and how good is the texture in that old jetty? I just love the texture in the timber. I think that level of detail adds, and as I say, it's one of those photos that the more you look at it, the more you see, which to me is a win when I'm taking landscape photos. I know I've got the composition right when I've got a client in store looking through my website or looking through a book that I've got, and they're flicking through and they stop. That's a win when I get them to stop. It sort of makes it all worthwhile when you get them. You can see they've stopped, and you go, okay, I've got something right here.
Yeah.
Always good.
Yeah, so. that happens at my gallery when they stop at my photo, and then I go, but look at Luke's photo. Look how nice it is over there.
That's right.
Yeah. All right, we'll go on to the next one.
Go for it.
Yeah. So this one, this is one of those ones where I think it's really important to talk about foreground interest. Is that if you have something in your foreground as your composition, it can really just make or break a shot. So this is on one of the workshops I did with Sang Ma from Perth. We went down to the tessellated pavement for sunrise, which is down towards Port Arthur. And we went down there. It was an okay sunrise, but we got some beautiful light, and it was nice conditions. But there was this bit of big yellow kelp sitting in the foreground. So I decided to put that in as almost my main feature of the shot. And then it's just a matter of letting the rest of the shot sort of, work its way into it with the lines and the reflections. But to me, if you're setting up compositions, sometimes people shooting wide angle don't look down enough, or they don't sort of shoot down enough. They sort of shoot more out. And as a rule of thumb, I try with my wide angle, we're talking maybe 16 mil or 18 mil wide. My camera is almost 45 degrees down, pointing at the subject in the foreground. So a lot of times when you go to locations, you might be scouting for compositions. A lot of times I find that the best composition or the best topic for my composition is at my feet. So don't be afraid to look right down at your feet, because sometimes there's some incredible detail on beaches and forest floors and things like that. So if you can find something that's got some really interesting shape or color, chuck it in the middle, chuck it in the front of your frame, really shoot down. This is probably set up at about 1 meter high or 1.5 meter high tripod, shooting down with a wide angle lens. There's a little snippet of sky. I was hoping there might have been maybe some more color or more interest in the sky. I don't know how to drop skies in by Photoshop, so I didn't do it. But to me, it's all about that golden color and the
really easy, man. So easy.
Apparently so.
It's like 2 mouse clicks.
Yeah, for coming from the man who can't get his background in 16:9 on the show, he's able to drop skies in. But yeah, to me, like composition, it doesn't always have to be about the rule of thirds or vanishing points or things like that. It can be, and again, this is where Peter Dombrovskis. I encourage everyone who loves landscape photography, go check out Peter Dombrovskis's work. He was the master of foreground interest. Another Tasmanian photographer here, Nick Monk. Nick Monk does an incredible job at making extremely good shots with interesting foregrounds. You can make the foreground, that can be your hero of the shot. And if you've got something nice in the back to complement it, it can really make your shots pop out. So, you take that kelp out of there and okay, it's an okay shot with some leading lines. But with the shapes and the swirls of the kelp there and the color, to me, that sort of just made it really sort of stand out from other shots that we did that day.
The color, the light pinging off the kelp is what makes it. It really defines the shape of the kelp, and I really like that. Yeah. Kath has asked, was the kelp there or did Seng put it there? He's well known for that.
He's well known for getting the shits if you move his leaves out of his shots. Hi, Seng. Quick side story. I did a workshop with Seng. This is actually the same workshop we're on. And we went to Liffey Falls, which is up in the north. And he was taking a shot down, it's like a 2 or 3 tier waterfall. And he was down the bottom, and I went down to see what he's doing. And there was this broken off fern in the water. And I'm like, there's no way that fern's there. There's no ferns like that around the water's edge. He's clearly put it there, but apparently he hadn't put it there. But I went up and said, come on, mate, you can't be doing that. And I took the fern out the way, and he got a little bit narky with me because I took this fern out of his foreground. But to answer Kathy's question, it was there. I didn't move it there. I didn't put it there. You can see there's some more up in the background of the shot. You could have picked a dozen different spots to do that, but you can see that the light's coming in. Looks like it's coming in from the left-hand side. So, you can sort of, angle your camera to get that light to come across. And like you said, Bren's just catch a bit of that light and the shape of it as well. But
it's great. It's great because you got that separation of the dark rocks with the kelp.
Yeah. I call me old school or whatever, but I don't add or subtract things in photos. I don't place things in there. I don't take things out. I try and just find things as they naturally stand. And I think, again, everyone shoots differently, but that's how I've sort of trained myself over the years, is to look for things that I don't need to put in or put out, look for that natural scene. To me, I get a bit more of a reward if I find something really cool that no one else has taken a photo of and stuff like that. So
I've moved things in photos. I'm happy to admit it. Normally when it just doesn't work, like I just can't get, there was a photo, I think we've shared the photo previous, was at Wilson's Prom. It's an old boat, and I think I said at the time I dragged the boat up the beach into the composition. You can still see the drag marks. It just looks like the fisherman had done it, but I did it because it just wasn't working for me. In fact, I think I even flipped the boat up the right way. It was upside down. I flipped it up the right way. I have no qualms whatsoever with manipulating images in the field in terms of throwing a leaf here or like your mate was doing, putting a fern there and that sort of stuff. No issue with that at all. But I also understand and really do appreciate when something falls naturally like this has. That's really cool when you get lucky like that. And you've obviously taken full advantage of it there.
What's Kay saying? Went somewhere recently and sunset was a no-go. It was raining, but I heard Cam in my ears saying, look down now. And wow, we got some great patterns in the sand instead. I thought she was going to say I placed something in her foreground. Thanks, Kay, for saving me. And that's the thing. Like, look down. Look down, look up, look behind you. A lot. And
Susie makes a good point as well. You got to move stuff when you shoot macro.
Well, you do sometimes. Macros, macro. You're working in a lot sort of smaller little area, but. Yeah, to me, this is the challenge I love doing. The challenge for me is trying to find these scenes without actually putting them in. Like, that's where I get a buzz. Like, oh shit, I found a really cool spot. I don't think I've seen that before. Or there's a root system like that old tree we did with the root system. So that to me, my wife, beautiful wife, is delivering me another cider. Thank you. Hello, Lisa, to everyone. To me, the whole challenge really is, how can I create something that's interesting? And sometimes I'll go places and I'll look around and I'm like, there's nothing, there's nothing that hasn't already been done here, or, it's looking all the same, or there's nothing really important. So anyway, we'll move on. We'll move on to the next one. I like this one.
Next.
This is a cool
Yeah,
one.
I like this one as well. Not just because I took it, but so this is the third angle of the Point Lonsdale jetty that you're seeing tonight. And there's obvious reason why I chose the same subject, because three completely different photographs, I think, of the exact same subject. So the jetty that we were underneath before, we're now up above. Bird's eye view from a drone is a godsend for landscape photographers, as far as I'm concerned.
Agreed.
This sort of thing, this sort of photograph 5 years ago didn't exist. You can't fly a helicopter that low in that area. I've got a pretty good arm, but I don't think I could throw my camera that high. You can't fly a blimp or anything. It's just drone photography has changed everything. I got out there with the drone looking straight down, flew. I went, oh my goodness, look at those patterns in the water. Like I wouldn't have even known they were there. And it really makes for fantastic photography, particularly when you get the contrast, this intersection of the jetty that's cutting right through the third of this photo. And surprise, surprise, look where I put it on the third line. And now the rule of thirds, I want to talk about the rule of thirds a little bit. Yes, it exists. Yes, it's a real thing. And yes, it's a real tool that can be used. There you go. Thanks, Cam. He's put a grid over it and look where that jetty is. That is the full frame of the drone. That's not cropped, edited anyway. That is the full frame. And it just so happens that I laid it right on the third.
Yeah.
It is definitely something that you pick up really quickly when you're out shooting landscape photos. Rules are meant to be broken, sure, and not all landscape photos are going to fall into the rule of thirds. But it's such a cliched rule, but by geez, it works. It just, for some reason, our brains are wired to accept that is a good composition when it's broken up into the rule of thirds, as Cam put up there the grid, and you can see, the tic-tac-toe grids there. Yeah, it just worked really, really well with this particular image. Yeah. One thing I hate about this image is the roof of the shelter on the end of the jetty. It's just this big white blob. Nothing I could do about that. That's there.
It's funny you say that, because I actually don't mind that. To me, that sort of breaks up the end bit of the wooden jetty bit. I love all the shadows on the jetty. They're really cool, and the people are great. People are great for scale. What I would have loved to seen, and surely Photoshop has a way of doing this, I would have loved to have seen like a big whale shark in that aqua, just floating around, sort of just
that'd be cool.
Around. Yeah, or some sort of animal or something like that would have been pretty cool. But yeah, you're 100% right. Drone photography, love it or hate it. Some people hate drones, some people love them, some people are in the middle. But drone photography has definitely brought landscape photography to a completely different level, pun intended, because it really does take you to a spot that you just can't get to, like unless you've got plenty of cash like Tom Putt to go aerial flying every day of the week and shoot down at places. You don't have that kind of money to do that, then the drone's the next best thing. And you can get some really, really cool aspects, and you get to see things that you don't see, such as the water. Like you don't see that water like that, if you look over different lakes, or, I've seen some really cool ones over old shipwrecks and things like that, where you get a bird's eye view of the shipwreck and stuff like that. So this is a really good example of how your drone can be used to create beautiful art. And I've got no doubt that this probably sells pretty well, this print, if you do sell it.
Yeah, it does. Sometimes I wish I just had a much bigger gallery space. I've got a tiny little shop. This is one of those photos that's sort of been lost over the years that I've got to bring back and put it back up on display, because every time I print a big canvas of this and go, it lasts a couple of days on the wall. So I've got to do that. Just getting back to the roof of the shelter on the end of the jetty there, I think I just wish it was the color of corrugated iron, or maybe even a timber roof. I don't know. It's just, I can't get past the fact that it's just this big white. It looks like someone's put a wedding marquee or something on the end there. But I hear what you're saying as well. It does match the railing of the jetty, which is, framing the whole jetty. And so I get it. And look, it works, it sells, it's fine. So
no, it's good. And everyone's commenting on the color of the water and stuff like that. It's really cool. And then, again, you just don't see that from the beach. You might see a glimmer of it, but you don't see it as well. And I also like the fact that the left-hand side of the jetty is a bit rough. So you've got some patterns on the water, and then the right-hand side of the jetty, you've just got nice smooth water. So you've almost got two different types of bodies of water in the one shot, which I think is pretty cool as well.
Yeah, that worked really well. I was going to say something, but I've lost my train of thought. But it was something about that image anyway. I'll come back to it.
Yeah,
never mind.
Cool. Keep the comments coming, guys, or questions. That's really good. We've got a couple more to go through, and then.
Sorry, I remember what I was going to say.
Brendan's remembered now.
It's when you're pushing my age, Cam, you'll get here one day. When quite often when I do these bird's eye view shots over water, particularly in this area, I do get the odd comment from people saying, "Oh, the color of the water is not that color." And the first thing I say to them is, "Have you ever been up in a plane over this? Have you got a drone?" Like, people don't actually understand that.
They've seen auroras though.
That's right. People don't actually understand when you go vertical over water, you take all the glare off the water.
Yeah.
So, you're looking straight down. So this is no polarizer. This is no filter whatsoever. This is just the drone looking straight down.
Yeah.
And you do pick up better color that way. So it works really well, particularly the Barwon River, where I've got photos looking straight down over the Barwon Heads bridges. The water's really green. It's beautiful, like greens and blues. It's gorgeous. Like you'd think you're in the Whitsundays, but you're down here in lovely old Victoria.
Yeah, we have the similar thing here down in the rivers of Tassie, and the lakes got the tannin from the button grass. So you get these really brown, golden sort of rivers, and people go, "Oh, you've obviously played around with that a bit." So no, that's real life, and you can drink it, which is great. So
absolutely. All right, let's go with one more image.
Yeah. So this one, it's another forest shot, but I just thought it was a good example of how, if you're not using leading lines as such, like, walkways or jetties or, tessellated pavement lines, you can always use streams and roads and things like that. So this one is a shot of Rinadina Falls, which is buried in the sort of northwest of Tassie in the forests. It's about I think it's about a 2-hour walk into here. It's not a stupid walk, but it's long enough. But I just love the mossy bits in this and the waterfall in the background. But again, just trying to put that interest in the foreground for your composition. It'd be easy just to sort of crop out that complete foreground and just have that waterfall and a forest and then maybe one of those rocks. But having the water run through your scene, automatically your eye just follows that stream back up and you get to the really nice waterfall at the back. So this, I thought, was a good example of how, again, just using that foreground interest to lead you to something that sort of complements it. So, a lot of people might get there and shoot purely for that waterfall. But to me, it was all about this little cascade in the foreground and the detail on the moss and the little yellow flowers on there and things like that. So again, this is one of those ones where, you're not shooting straight out, you're sort of shooting a bit more down at your foreground. So if you're out at landscapes, again, don't be afraid to look down a bit more, especially if you're using a super wide angle lens. Just have that lens pointing more 45-degree down. And you'll see that your foreground all of a sudden just pops. It just becomes big, it becomes interesting, becomes prominent. And if you've got something really cool in that foreground, then you're on your way to getting a really nice image. But these are a beautiful waterfall, typical Tassie rainforest. It actually snows in here. I might go back in here this winter and have a look if we get a nice snow dump. But this sort of section on the snow would just add another element to it as well.
So when you were doing this composition and setting this up, did you find this composition, did it just present itself, or did you have to really go looking that hard for the shot?
Well, this one was actually a bit tricky to get to. It looks like it's relatively on the side of the stream, but I'm actually standing on a rock in the middle of the river. So it was a bit of a balancing act. My tripod's in the river. So when I first got there, I was just blown away by the waterfall and the forest. So I was just snapping around to the right-hand side, getting nice little shots of the waterfall without this interesting foreground. And then I sort of just had that conscious thought. I'm like, hang on a sec, I need to get something a bit different. I can't just shoot a waterfall on its own. Let's see if we can get some interesting foreground going on. So I went and had a look, and I thought, well, if I want to get that shot with the river running through the scene, I've got to be technically in the river to do that. So it wasn't a deep stream, and it wasn't actually running that fast either. It was pretty slow, but just trying to get something in the foreground a little bit different to what might be normal.
Have you got at hand there what the exposure time that was?
Ooh, maybe. Let me have a look. There you go. It was shot. This is actually shot on a Fuji, so it wasn't an Olympus. Sorry, Susie. So this is Fuji. So this is at f/22 ISO 100, using a 23mm lens on the Fuji, which is about an 18mm, 35mm equivalent, and this is 10 seconds. So this is a 10-second shot. Focus point would have been somewhere on this sort of mossy bit here on the foreground. So again, this is something else that we talk about with compositions. and your depth of field. And it's probably the one thing that so many people misses. People talk about depth of field and your aperture and how that affects things. But your point of focus, where you actually put your focus point, is critical because that's where your depth of field technically starts from. So it's also referred to as the hyperfocal distance. There is all these sort of wanky calculations you can do that I learned at university with your diameter of your lens and your distance from your sensor and topic and God knows what. But as a rule of thumb for me, I usually put my focus point about a third of the way into my shot. So my focus point is almost on that third line, talking about the rule of thirds. And then just, if I'm using a large aperture, I'm pretty confident that the foreground and background will all fall into focus. But a lot of people just let the camera choose where it focuses. And that is a bit of a no-no because the camera will normally focus in the middle of the frame where it's set up to focus. And if you're shooting at f4 or f5.6, then, this foreground is going to be blurry. You're going to miss out on some of that detail. So just keep that in mind as well. If you're not sure, look up hyperfocal distance and look up, your focus points. You should be able to manually move them around in your camera as well these days.
Yep.
So yeah.
Awesome.
Cool. These are Rinadina Falls is the name of these falls.
Lovely. Now, look, at the risk of going on all night, we do normally with the live shows cap them at around the 90-minute to 2-hour mark, just in case you're wondering when this is all going to end. But we will probably get this to about 9:15, something like that, just so you know that is local Eastern Daylight Savings Time.
It's a school night, so you'll be careful.
It is. Awesome. That was really cool. That segment was brought to you by Camera and Photo. That's cameraandphoto.com.au. If you want some photos printed, send them my way through our awesome online service at cameraandphoto.com.au. We have a little website that you can go to. You click on online prints and we'll do the rest for you.
Great
Cameron,
plug.
Thank you. We want to talk. We were sort of going to open the floor up to questions, but we generally find people like to sort of sit back and listen and take it in rather than fire us questions.
Yeah.
Let's quickly talk a little bit about gear. We the OM1 that was released. So Cam being a big Olympus user, I love Olympus as well. I think they do fantastic cameras. The new OM1 flagship camera hit the airwaves. I don't know whether we've actually got production models yet, but we shall see.
They're out there. This little black duck doesn't have one, but I thought we had a bit of a chat about it last week, and there were some interesting specs that were leaked, probably by OM Digital. So for those that don't know, I do a bit of work with Olympus. I use Olympus and a few other brands. I'm a bit of a brand whore sometimes, but I always like going back to my Olympus. And we had a bit of a chat about this one last week. And so it got released actually last week in between episodes. So I thought I'd just quickly breeze over that for those who shoot Olympus, who might be interested. I'm running some Olympus days as well, or OM Digital days throughout this year. I'm hoping to have one of the new models with me in the sample kit that we can show people and play around with. But just to give you a brief overview of what it does. So it's called the OM1. I love that, the fact that it's the OM1. I've got an OM1 here, the old film camera. I don't have it on me, Brendan. It's in a cabinet now. I've got my own a camera cabinet.
Oh, so a sweet little cabinet. Very nice.
So I can't do the old click and snap. But so it's still a 20 megapixel camera, which a lot of people went, oh, well, that's not heaps. That's the same as the last two models. But it is what they call a stacked sensor. So it will produce slightly better imagery, mainly because it has about 2 stops less of noise. And the processor in it as well allows you to do the high res shots where it does the sensor shifting. So you can actually get up to an 80 megapixel shot on it. So higher ISO, which has always been a little bit of a bugbear for people with Olympus cameras, is that doing astro and things like that, it has a bit more noise than what maybe the Canons and Nikons and Sonys. But to be honest, I haven't seen a huge problem with that myself. So it's the autofocus has definitely improved as well. They've got AI tracking for certain objects as well. So it's quite fast with its autofocusing. It can do up to 120 shots in full RAW a second, which is nuts. I don't know why you want to do that many shots, but the thing the two things I like about it as well, they've updated the EVF. So the EVF is one of the highest rated EVFs on the market now, which I think is great. And coming from that last shot we did with the waterfall, that was shot on the Fuji GFX 50. And I thought that had one of the best viewfinders I've ever used. It looked like you're looking into a slide box. This one has actually got similar, if not more, pixels or dots per whatever for the EVF. So this is pretty exciting. And again, this stack sensor with less noise allows you to do some, different shots at night. I think that's going to be a good thing. And the other thing as well with the new processor in it, you can do the handheld shots. So if anyone's used the EM3 or the EM1X, I know Craig uses one here. When you're doing a high res shot, you can actually do a high res shot handheld for 50 megapixel, but you probably have to wait like 5 to 10 seconds for it to actually create this file to view. From what I've seen of this new OM1, it'll do it within seconds. If not, it's very, very quick. So you can practically go around shooting 80 megapixel tripod shots or 50 megapixel handheld shots and get them instantly done. So it's pretty exciting. Like I said, I haven't got my hands on it yet, but its weatherproofing is off the charts. Its image stabilizing is class leading again. Its video stuff's pretty good. I don't do much video, but from what I hear, the video stuff's really good as well. So it's exciting. And like I said, I like the fact it's just called the OM1. So will I buy one? Yeah, I might. I'll see what happens over the next few weeks. I've still got the EM1 Mark III, which I love. So yeah, but anyone's interested in having a look, you can look at all the specs on the Olympus sites. There's some really good reviews going around, and really, it's one thing I was going to mention as well. Like a lot of the reviews you see from people that work for the companies and stuff like that, this has probably been the first camera release I've seen in many years where the people reviewing them actually seem to be being brutally honest about it. Like they're saying, hey, it does this, it's really good, but it doesn't do this as well. Like it seems to be really quite honest reviewing from people who are probably employed by OM Digital as well. But it's refreshing not to just get spoon-fed all the good things. Like people are actually saying, especially around the pixels and things like that. So it's interesting. But yeah, I thought we'd just touch on it after last week.
I think one thing that's undersold from the company formerly known as Olympus is the weatherproofing. You did mention it. Phenomenal on these things. The Olympus can work in sub-zero temperatures, in snow. It can work in dust. It can work in, underwater pretty much. They're amazing cameras for their weatherproofing. As you say, class leading. So if you think you want a high-end mirrorless SLR and you do plan on doing a fair bit of hiking, trekking, that sort of stuff, pretty tough to beat the Olympus OM1.
And I think as well I think this is what maybe they were calling it the wow camera, and I must admit after we had our little session last week, the specs to me weren't really blowing my socks off, but after reading a few reviews and watching a few things, I think it goes back to exactly what you said. Like I've seen these. I use these cameras out in snow. Like literally, I do workshops with them, and people go, "Oh, can you come and help me with this cam?" We might be in the middle of a snowstorm. I literally just drop my camera into the snow, walk off, and help. Everyone's like, "What are you doing? Why are you dropping your camera in the snow?" I'm like, it's fine. It's weatherproof. It takes it all. I've seen them go into ponds and into Dove Lake for minutes underwater, and they still work. But for a high-res professional camera, high-spec professional camera, 20 megapixels is fine. I've got pictures at, a meter by a meter and a half blown up. They're fine. The weight of them is incredible. They're really sort of stepping it up on these other brands to make lighter and better cameras. And I think talking about the artists that formerly known as Olympus, the last thing I'll say on this is that I think their lenses are superb.
They are. They are. There's no argument. That's fact. Their lenses are superb. They're the sharpest lenses you can buy. The autofocus system is amongst the fastest in the world. Olympus have always prided themselves on their optics, and they continue to deliver. Particularly the Zuiko lenses, they're nuts. The last word on it is, it looks like its street price is going to come in at around $3,300, which I think is on the high side. However, you do get what you pay for, and this is their flagship model. So if they made it cheaper, the model that comes in under this is going to be less. So it's an interesting thing. Pushing $3,500 is a lot of money for this kind of camera, in my opinion. But I still think it's a good buy.
Yeah,
they don't even sponsor us. What are we doing? Can we not talk about Olympus anymore?
Well, it's better than Canon.
The artist formerly known as
Canon.
He didn't mean that. Now, are we okay? We're getting pretty close to time, but I shot my film? We want to talk about that? We can.
Yeah, we can, but I didn't download all the shots. But we can show one.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind. So I've got the old. So my good mate Cam here sent me a Pentax K1000 towards the end of last year, and I've finally loaded it with film, and I have finally taken a few shots. This is one example. It's the very lighthouse that's behind me, but it's
no drop in sky here.
No drop in sky here. This is film, folks. Have a look at the juicy goodness that film delivers. Man, I love this photo. I love this camera. I mean, there's people in the background. They're going to be there forever. This is not a digital file. They're just there. This photo is straight out of camera. The file was sent to me, and I'm showing you exactly what I got out of that camera. I've fallen back in love with film. And the main reason I have is because, and I was saying this to Cam, when you shoot film, every shot counts. And I know that sounds silly, but it really does. You start slowing down so much, and talk about looking for compositions. It just becomes, it really drives you to search out the compositions, even to the point where I knew that I had more film for this camera back in my apartment where I was staying at Port Fairy. I did not have any more film with me, and I was getting towards the end of the roll, and we're at the lighthouse, and it was just like, okay, what do you got? I was really happy to test myself out. And as I say, this is one of the photos I got while I was down there, but I pretty much got 23 out of 24 photos that I'm really, really happy with.
And I think that's such the key about film. And not only does it have a feel that you can edit this for hours in Photoshop or Lightroom, and you might get close to that film. You might be able to press a preset and get similar sort of film, but you can't get film unless you're shooting film. And you look at that any day of the week, and that's a film shot. And I love the fact that the colors are a little bit less saturated. The depth of field in that foreground is just beautiful. I love film, and I encourage people, if you've got film cameras there, just go out and shoot. Even if you come back with one shot out of 24, at least you've had a bit of fun. But it really does want to make you slow down and take your time and set up every shot. You're always checking the side of the frame to make sure you haven't stuffed it up, because you don't get another chance. And that's the beauty of it. So I think it looks great. And I apologize, I didn't download the rest of them for the episode, but we'll put them up on the Facebook page, the rest of the shots that you sent to me, because they all look great. And if you're getting 23 out of 24 shots, then, mate, you're doing well. It's a good effort.
I don't think I've ever achieved such a high strike rate with a roll of film. Literally 23 out of 24. And the one that didn't work was a weird double exposure of my Labrador and some flowers. It was really bizarre sort of crossover of two images because I was loading the film. It worked really well. Loved it. Absolutely love it. Highly recommend. If you shoot now with digital and you shoot a lot of land, or if you just take photos, dig out your old film camera, dig it out, chuck some new batteries in it, put in a roll of film, and have fun. It's awesome.
To give you an idea, I did it. I took my Olympus out, my little film camera out over yesterday for my birthday. Went down to Salamanca and just thought I'll take some slide film down and just shoot off. And it's just great, Funnily enough, I was taking a photo of either one of my kids or something like that. I can't remember what it was. And I actually held the camera out and I said, look, I actually went to look through a screen on the back of the camera. I'm like, oh, this one doesn't have a screen. I got to do it properly. So it actually makes you think and actually shoot differently. But I actually held it out there looking for a screen. But I went and I was buying another lens for one of my little film cameras here. But you can actually get online. For example, the OM1, the classic Olympus OM1 camera, not the new one, with a 50mm 1.8 lens. You can pick one of them up in really good condition for $300-$400, mint condition, almost as new. So something like that is a great little camera to have. And highly recommend people, if you got the time and the patience, to go and shoot some film. And it's actually bucketing down rain outside here. I don't know if you can hear it.
Wow. Send some our way. We could
bucketing down. It's coming in sideways. Jeez, it's starting to sound like a hurricane down here.
Wow. You're copying a bit of weather.
We are copying a bit of weather. But I think they're great. I'll put the rest of the photos up on the Facebook page. If you don't already follow us on the Facebook page, Down South Photo Show on Facebook, look us up. We can get that done. But I like that. That's cool as I like the old
brilliantly done. We are running the hashtag shoot one length through February. We have got a few images which we're just going to pretty quickly pop up on the screen from our good friend Mel, who has taken part in this challenge.
I'm going to go back and share. I'm working.
Sorry.
I'm pressing buttons everywhere.
You're all over it, mate. You're doing the back end beautifully.
Mel, I forgot what focal length you shot this at. I'm going to say 50 mil or 35 mil.
He'll comment. Come on, Mel. What focal length? Wow, what a great subject.
Yeah, it is pretty cool, isn't it? Awesome. It's like an old boat.
Yeah.
So this is the first one shooting at one length. Now, actually, I don't think I can. No, I can't say on the stats what it is, but I'm sure Mel will update us soon. And here's another one. It's got the canola fields in the background. Cool. That's pretty cool as well. That's pretty cool. That's an interesting foreground. It's got the big log there, and I like the yellow in the background. It's pretty cool. Drone. It's got a beat. Right. He shot this with drone.
It's got a beat, and we can dance to it. I really like the reflections in that. That's really cool. Good texture in the water. If I was to be picky, which I will be, I probably would have even shallowed out the depth of field a little bit.
Yeah.
But I still like it. It's very, very cool. It's a drone.
Yeah.
Because he's got one length, Cam.
I don't know who suggested that idea, but gee, that's brilliant. And this is the last one as well. No, that's a cool sky. Did you drop that one in, Mel, or?
I reckon that one was there. No, I've seen that one in. No, that's an Adobe stock image. I've seen it. Sorry, Mel, you can't get one past us, mate.
Yeah, you tried to drop skies in. Got a drop sky expert, but that challenge still goes for another 9 days or 8 days. I don't know. Leap year, not a leap year. So if you've still got some shots, the idea was to shoot them all as one focal length, so 50 mil, 30 mil, 35 mil, 200 mil, whatever it might be. And then you can share them on our Facebook page as well. But it was all about just getting you to start shooting at just one focal length, just looking at something at one focal length where you can't go and change lens or zoom in or zoom out. And sometimes that makes you think a bit more outside the box. So good job, Mel. I like it.
Love it. All right, good stuff. So I think we might wrap the show up there. Yeah. What do you got coming up this week, Cam?
Probably more gardening, but if it's raining, I won't be doing anything.
Hey, that's a win.
That's a win. So I have a Tarkine workshop that's sold out. That starts next month. So the next week, probably going to start. We're looking to update our gallery out at Richmond. We're moving into autumn, so we currently have 20% off all our printed framed images on the walls there. So if you're up to after something artwork for your house, you can buy online if you know what you're looking for, and we can post it out Australia-wide. But I think I'll start having a look through my autumn shots and start getting an idea of what I want to frame up for the next season for the gallery. But apart from that, probably not a great deal, although you've inspired me again with those film shots. You sent me a packet of 120 film, the Portra, for my Hasselblad. So I'm going to go take the Hasselblad out this week and shoot off film. But you don't process 120, do you?
I don't process 120, sorry. Okay. I can do 35 mil, but not 120, sorry. Yeah, that's okay. My bad.
Yeah. What have you got going on?
Something, well, I've got something interesting coming up. Can
you read the show notes word for word?
I can't read it word for word. I think we might not last too long on YouTube if I read it word for word. I am giving a talk at a retirement village, which I'm stoked to do. It's going to be awesome. We're going to talk a lot about the history of film. We're also going to I'm going to give a talk about what got me into photography. I'm also going to get to show off a lot of my photos. So looking forward to doing that. So I've got a bit of prep work to do for that.
Yes.
I've been very, very lucky to sell a big stack of my canvas prints to a couple of local businesses that are completely redecorating their doctor surgeries.
Cool.
With 20 plus of my canvases. So
yeah,
I'm going to have sore forearms from stretching all this canvas this week. That will be me.
How good is that though? That's a story I like to hear, that local businesses are actually acquiring work from local artists. I think that's great. Like they could have easily just gone online to say, camblakphotography.com.au and picked a few things off there, but they've gone someone local. And I think that's awesome. So good on them for doing that and supporting you.
Yeah, no, it was excellent. It was a really good score. And the guy just loves his photography. He loves landscape photography. So that was a win to be able to do that. And it gets to show off my photos and people will see them. That's the main thing. People get to see my photos.
Another workshop participant for the Cam and Brendan workshop.
Yes, absolutely. I like it.
That's good.
So next episode is episode 31, which would follow from episode 30 naturally. We may have our special guest, or are we still a week or so away from that?
We're still waiting. We're waiting. He's in a different hemisphere to us, so we're just waiting on hearing back from him.
We're patient.
I don't know if anyone's guessed who it is yet. I don't know if anyone knows in the comments if you've been watching, but he had to scoot away to do another little trip to Zion National Park. But I might shoot him an email during the week. We'll get it we'll probably pre-record it, I imagine. And
we will not walk the tightrope of live with the show. It's just not going to work.
No, and we've got to probably scratch up on our interview skills. Being from the Northern Hemisphere, I don't know if you'll understand our sense of humour down here in the Down South Photo Show. But some of the things I've seen on Twitter and social media from him, I think he'll slot in quite nicely. So.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Look, thanks for tuning in on a live show, everyone. Thanks for giving up your Sunday night to listen to us prattle on about our photography. We hope you've appreciated it. I hope you've enjoyed it. We love doing them. So, as I say, we do plan on making this a regular monthly live show. May not always be a Sunday night, but we'll give you plenty of notice when we're going to be doing them. So
and one of the guests, Kathy, asked if we would be interested in critiquing viewer shots. So for that, I was thinking the next live broadcast we might put a shout out the week before and maybe grab half a dozen shots from people, and we can go through and have a bit of a chat about what we like or don't like.
Absolutely. And how can I put this? I want to let people know that when we are looking at your images, we're not going to pull any punches. We will tell you. And if you're happy to put your photo up, we will give you a dead honest critique of the photos.
I won't. I'll be nice. I'll just be. I've learned my lesson.
Yeah, I don't think it will be. I just think it's way more important to have. We're not going to be assholes. We're going to be.
Oh, we might. If there's a red jacket in there, I will be an asshole. I can tell you right now.
It would be constructive if we do go down that path. It will certainly be very, very constructive. Yeah. So. Kathy, I think you asked the question. Look, absolutely, we'd happily do that for you. That'd be no problems at all.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Cam. We done?
I'm just trying to figure out how I end the stream without cutting us off.
We're going through this again.
It says end stream on my screen, so I think last time I cut us off early. So I got nothing. Again, thank you everyone for tuning in. This has been a lot of fun again. Love the banter and the chatting and the questions as well. An hour and a half. If we go any longer, I think we'll all start snoozing off. But thank you, everyone, for tuning in.
Susie, Kathy, Jesse, Steve, thank you, guys. Appreciate the comments through the night. Really
who's this
Mel?
Who's this Mel guy? I don't know who he is.
No, that was excellent. So thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning into episode 30 of the Down South Photo Show. We will have this up as a podcast in the next day or two if you want to, for some bizarre reason, relive it, but you can. We'll do that for you. And we will be back with a regular show of the Down South Photo Show next week. Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Thanks. Adios. Might be ended. Don't know.